Hello, Paul McFadden here. So let's continue from yesterday and from the whole week when we've been talking about no money down property investing. If you missed any of the videos, I recommend you go back and check them because we're talking about this whole idea of buying property or controlling property using none of your own money. Yesterday we spoke about controlling property through lease options and delayed completions. There's actually another method of controlling property that's not options or delayed completions, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. But let's focus on lease options. We spoke about this yesterday, that a lease option is where you agree a purchase price with a seller. So let's say you've got a seller who can't sell the property, maybe they're in a negative equity, or you just can't buy the property at a big enough discount for you to work for a traditional sale. Because again, if you're an investor, you want to make sure you're buying with the right investment criteria to buy right, add value, refinance and pull your money out. And if you're not doing that, then it's probably not a good deal in the first place. However, you might want to explore the option to control that property through a lease options agreement. Now, lease options can be done on residential property, like I said yesterday, throughout the UK apart from Scotland. In Scotland, you can't do lease options, you would do a delayed completion, so I would refer back to the video yesterday. Now, a delayed completion is where you're concluding contracts or missives, which means you're legally tied into buying that property at the end of the term that you agree. But with a lease option, it's the obligation, so it's not the obligation to buy, I should say. So you can agree a purchase price, you can agree a time frame, and there's a number of clauses that you can add in there as well to protect your interests. But at the end of the term, you don't have to, if you don't want to, follow through with the sale. Now, from an ethical standpoint, my recommendation would be, because I believe that this is a powerful strategy for those that can apply that, mainly outside of Scotland, but do it with the ethics in mind. If a seller is in a vulnerable position having to sell and offload in the first place, then the reality is after, let's say, the 5-year term, you decide you don't want to buy that property, then remember you're going to give that problem back to the seller and they thought that you had dealt with it. So from an ethical standpoint, from a moral standpoint, make sure that you've got a clear exit at the end of 5 years, whether it's you buying the property to add to your portfolio or whether it's you're going to flip the property on behalf of the seller and then again making the seller situation effectively become better. Or maybe you've got an agreement with the seller which is perfect for them so they can get the property back after 5 years. There are a lot of situations where that is going to be suitable for them because their circumstances and things may have changed over that time frame. So it's a great opportunity for a seller who needs to move out and move on. It's not always financially motivated in terms of having to sell to make money. It could be that they've just fallen into some arrears. It could be that they've lost their job just now and you've taken over that property. Maybe doing a light renovation if it's required, and then having it for enough time for you to be able to renovate that property, put it in the marketplace, achieve a higher figure in terms of a rental point of view. It could be a strategy used for a service accommodation, or you could be using for a HMO if you can get the HMO license. And I won't get into the nitty gritty because there's certain legal requirements you need to do, especially when the lenders are concerned and involved, whoever the mortgage is with, that we'll not get into in this video, but there's a lot of regulation and things you need to make sure you don't fall foul with. A lot of people do this the wrong way and end up in a situation that it's actually they're operating incorrectly and open themselves up to a lot of issues. So we don't want to be in that situation. We want to make sure we're doing it right. But lease options, at the very early days when lease options kind of came here to the UK, I was sitting around, solicitors' tables in Scotland mainly, talking to solicitors about this whole idea of acquiring properties and controlling properties for lease options. So I was kind of at the forefront of lease options in the UK, especially in Scotland. We did a lot of lease options when we were able to, until the Scottish Law Society changed that on the whole idea of doing residential lease options. Now, from that point of view, I thought that it was a good thing that it did that because there was many people misusing this strategy. So for the reasons I mentioned, make sure that you're not putting the seller back into a more difficult situation further down the line. My recommendation for you is to extend the time frame for as long as possible. That way, if you have to invest in the property through modernising the property or renovating it, that way, when you go and rent the property out, if that's the strategy, then you're going to attract a better tenant, better client, potentially a better exit, because you can also get a tenant buyer. Well, there's going to be someone that comes in as a tenant for 3 to 5 years while they're building up their deposit, and they're going to treat it like a home. They might even spend the money on the renovation themselves if you get the right tenant buyer, and at the end of the term they become the buyer of the property. So you're able to benefit from all of this by controlling that asset through a lease options agreement, not having to put a deposit in, not having to pay stamp duty, additional dwelling tax. There's a lot of benefits from doing a lease option as well. Now, if you're interested in that strategy, along with delay completions, what we spoke about yesterday, delay completion is the perfect strategy to own your dream home way before you're able to obtain a mortgage at the value that it may be. Then hey, maybe head over to propertyprotege.com and check out what we're doing there. We cover all these strategies in detail, plus other advanced strategies that help you in your property journey going forward. And also make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that bell notification to be notified when these videos drop. And of course, if you're on the podcast player, make sure you're subscribed. If you can think of anybody who would be looking to hear more about this and see this as a great strategy, then be sure to share this video and this podcast with them too. So all the best, and we'll continue on the no money down strategies tomorrow.